Most of the citizens, no matter what political view they have, only want a betterment for the country. With how divided politics are these days, people oftentimes will lose the sight that everyone is just believing in what they think is the best. Or at least most people, that is. The only people who wouldn't believe in that are people who do not want the country to thrive, and that's not a very positive thing to talk about. But I'm talking about, well, the best example is the United States politics, how divided they are, and just, how everything is going.
Subscribe to JB dragmotoxboss for millions of IQ. Also be sure to join my Discord server, JB's Palace.
So, many people will often think that Donald Trump supporters are sexist, are for Hitler. I'm not even allowed to really say that word. Yeah, I did hear about this billboard. This Lumber Tycoon 2 billboard. What was even on here? But anyways, then some people will think that Kamala Harris supporters are communists, fascists. All these names get thrown around. And it's not really any of the supporters that think like this. I do believe that, let's just say 99.9, because of course there probably are a couple oddballs that have intentions of the country, wanting the country to go into shambles. So 99.99% of people who are voting, who voted in this year's election, want the country to thrive and actually want the country to succeed. Now, I do want to say a couple things, however. There are some people who go as insane to say that certain candidates will majorly take away rights and stuff like that. And I will say, and unfortunately, I can't really specifically say what I think is true and what I don't think is true. Political ads. There's a lot of fear tactics put into people, which causes people to think that the world is going to end if a certain presidential candidate gets elected or not. The stakes may be high, but a presidential candidate being elected does not directly result in the world ending. The world will only end if a president comes into office and makes all of the wrong moves. So no matter how much someone says that a president will cause the world to end, yes, it could happen, but it's not a guarantee. This goes for any president. Do not fear what people say a president is going to do, even if the person that you want to win does not win. There's no guarantee that any of them will do anything until it is actually done. There are many things that were said, many good and bad things that people said Trump were going to do that never happened. Same thing goes for Joe Biden. So don't over freak out over, all this is going to happen. It's only going to happen when it happens. There's no guarantee. We're not in the actual the Oval Office hearing the decisions being talked about in real time when everything's getting signed. Back on the main subject of this video, everyone, 99.99% of the people in the country want it to thrive. And many people will even cut certain family members out of their lives because they have different political views. And that's just not the way that you should do things. Everybody is human. Some people are misled. Some people have different opinions. But everybody pretty much has a heart of gold when it comes to this. Maybe not a heart. Well, that's a big statement, but I'm saying everybody has the right intentions. Of course, when they're voting. They're voting for who will make the country better in their opinion. I made a video in the past saying just see past other people's differences and stuff like that. See past it and still be friendly with one another. See past people's political opinions. That is what we should all do, and that's how we unite instead of become more divided. That's how we can work together to help solve problems in the world. My opinion to you is that if you would like to step into the world of politics, do not believe any singular source. I want you to gather information from many sources and see what is going on. Make sure to also know what sources you are reading. I don't forget what it's called. Let me look it up. It is called Ground News, and it'll tell you what articles lean left or right or are more center. Now, of course, even with Ground News, you also need to be careful. Be careful with absolutely everything, because think of this. There are certain people who have a lot of money, and sometimes people will bribe other people to lie on just news stations or articles or anything like that. The reason why I say this is I want you to think of this. If it never happened, wouldn't that be such a shocking factor? Like, at one point in time, someone needs to be someone would be greedy enough, would be greedy enough to end up doing that. So you need to be extremely careful and really see what is going on. And whenever you hear something, try to find both sides of the story. Don't believe everything at first sight. Even if a family member tells you a certain thing, second question, double guess them. Now, of course, if you have family members that demand a lot of respect and insist that they're correct, then of course don't question them out loud. But when you're done speaking with them in a conversation, like, go off and just by yourself, just research, like, is this really true or not? And just find it on a bunch of different news sources. Listen to liberal podcasts as well as conservative ones as well. That is the best way that you can find the best information, all right? There are often times where things will be taken out of context, and then people will say certain things because those certain things will be taken out of context. I do want to bring up a couple more points, and this is what I personally researched. So first, we'll talk about a point about the Republicans. There are so many people who talk about how Donald Trump will give only tax cuts to the rich. That is, in fact, false. I actually found that out because the original clip of where he said that in two separate, like, parts of the speech. But there is literally a short put directly on the Joe Biden YouTube channel, and they have, like, him saying two things, and they're put together. It is so easily seen that those are two moments taken out of context. Now, maybe I am 100% wrong, and maybe that is true. They're just two separate clips taken out of context and put together, and then now a bunch of people are saying, oh, he's going to give tax cuts to the rich just based off of that. Let's actually watch the clip together. We'll actually do this right now, right here. So right here, this is a video from the Young Turks. Watch, President Trump promises tax cuts to rich as hell campaign supporters. Yes, I've heard that clip a million times. That's why I'm saying it like that. Let's watch this.
He's a star, but a lot of times people say, well, this is going to be easy for him, and then they forget to vote. They don't go out to vote. You got to get out and vote, but you got to help him financially because you're all people that have a lot of money. I know 20 of you, and you're rich as hell. So anything you are going to do, it quadruple it. It doesn't mean it's just, I hope you can back him and write checks for him and do everything, and then we're going to close the border. We're going to give you tax cuts. We're going to pay off our debt.
Right there, we saw it. On the Joe Biden YouTube channel, on that, they're saying Donald Trump's going to give tax cuts to the rich right there. If you take a second to look at that entire clip and actually have to just listen to what is being said there, this is basically the context of the situation. What is said is he's talking about how you got to get out and vote to help out the people. And he's talking about how the people who he wants to, like, in the context of that, it sounded like to me like he was telling the people who are rich to help out his campaign so that he could become president. Nothing about we're going to give you guys a tax cut specifically. For example, like encouraging them to use their money to help support his campaign so he can fulfill his promises. And then at the end of that, well, the multiple clips put together, he was saying, we're going to give you tax cuts. But there's no proof he was talking about that audience specifically. Now, maybe, like I said, maybe there is. And maybe I got to watch the full thing a separate time. But if he said that, like he's going to give tax cuts to the rich directly, why would all these news sources like cut up the clips? That makes it look extraordinarily suspicious. And he wasn't even talking about directly giving tax cuts to the rich in that context. Like earlier in the clip, he was saying he wants the people with a lot of money to help out his campaign. Or at least that's the context of what was being talked about. Now, let's switch to the other side. There are many people who freaked out after the vice president debate happened when Tim Walz, which was Kamala Harris's running mate, he said that he was friends with school shooters. Now, let's watch the context of this clip. This is Forbes breaking news. Shock misspeak. Tim Walz says he's become friends with school shooters at vice president debate with J.D. Vance.
An assault weapons ban, but it's only later in your political career did you change your position. Why?
Yeah, I sat in that office with those Sandy Hook parents. I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it. Look, the NRA, I was an NRA guy for a long time. They used to teach gun safety. I'm of an age where my shotgun was in my car so I could pheasant hunt after football practice.
Now, right there, you see that Tim Walz talked about how he became friends with school shooters. Now, this was a misspeak. And everybody misspeaks sometimes. The thing is that in politics and how divided everyone has become, they take all the misspeaks way too seriously. And it's like, oh, that's their true intentions and stuff like that. I believe that it possibly could be, or it could just truly be a misspeak. You really cannot tell. Because everybody who has good intentions, once in a while misspeaks, and it will sound like they're saying something extraordinarily bad. So, when it comes to politics and stuff like that, you need to try and back up. When dealing with politics, think clearly with what information you're going to gather. Tonight, we pretty much figured out that Donald Trump is not going to give tax cuts just to the wealthy. Maybe he will. Maybe he'll give it to everybody. Maybe he'll just give it to middle class. But I know that it's not going to be just to the wealthy, because he has many times said that he's going to give it to everybody. And Tim Walz, we don't know necessarily if he has bad intentions or not. Just based on that clip, of course. Then again, also think of this. You never know if a person will do something in office until they actually go and act upon and actually do it. Because sometimes not all the promises are kept. Maybe there will be no more future tax cuts that Donald Trump will give to anybody in general. Again, we will only know if action happens. We will only truly know at that rate if action happens.